evening, Canterbury. I'm Mike Yardley. Welcome to NewsMakers, where we debate the week's news through Canterbury eyes. It's a pleasure to introduce our panel, property developer Dave Henderson, from Women's Financial Strategies, Sheryl Sutherland, and freelance journalist with the NBR and property investor, Chris Hutching. Thank you very much for joining us. Some of us have grown stuff over the summer break. You're looking very woolly there, Mr. Henderson.
There you go, yeah. Well, Sheryl said it was very attractive, so that inspired me.
Oh.
That is totally untrue.
What, that it's not attractive?
That's the one.
It's not trying to go unrecognised, Dave.
Not at all, Chris.
It's been an epic week for our regional council as the aftershocks of the Christchurch report play out. There's been a flurry of meetings and lots of fingers being pointed, but it's still not clear exactly what's going to emerge from the shakedown. Let's get our panel's thoughts. Chris, your impressions?
I think it's pretty clear. This is the biggest political jack-up I've seen for decades. Frankly, I've been nauseated this week to see the district's mayors coming around to the Hyde and Smith show and trying to dance on the dismembered corpse of ECAN. The farmers take the water, the Christchurch city takes the transport. This is a completely undemocratic move. They're going to set up some kind of water authority that is headed by officials appointed by government. It will be funded by rates that you and I continue to pay. We will have no representation on it. Now, let's make no mistake, this is not about saving the environment. This is based on a report by Wyatt Creech, ex-National MP, who's the director of a company that has about 12 prosecutions for effluent disposal or similar. Now, he complained in his report that ECANers were too green, they were too environmental, and that's what this is all about.
Do you think it was a bit of a preordained hatchet job, Dave?
By whom, do you
Creech.
think, Mike? Or unquestionably, he had a lot of influence in this, hasn't he? And he's got a wee agenda there, you'd have to believe. But look, it's what happens, is that you have this body, it's been set up, it's going to grow, and it's grown and grown and grown, and along the way I think it's become inefficient and incompetent, as they inevitably do. And if it can be stripped back, then that's great. And there's a whole lot of functions that occur there that local government is doing. And so why do you need ECAN? And I think that's true up and down the country, though.
No one seems
It's
to be...
not just ECAN, it's every regional council that needs to be reviewed.
Okay. No one seems to be gagging to put their hand up for pest control in the wash-up from ECAN, are they? Where do you think we're headed on this one? Sheryl?
Well, I want to agree with both the panellists here, so this is a bit of a surprise to begin with. I don't know where we're going to go on pest control. I think the pests actually are sitting in the beehive. So pest control could be a good idea, but anyhow, I'm rambling. What I thought was really interesting is this is so political. Canterbury has got 70% of the fresh water in New Zealand, and we're 50% of the hydropower. Of course, the government wants control. It's like we're being asset stripped to enrich the government's purses, so to speak. And I agree with Dave. I mean, what the hell was ECAN's original brief, for goodness sake? I can't find it, and they seem to be doing things like running buses, which is a bit odd when the council's got the infrastructure. They're now actually worrying about trying to make swimming safer and all this sort of nonsense. So I think definitely they all need to be fired or stood up against a wall and shot. Oh, that's not PC, I'm sorry. Anyhow, we should be starting all over again.
Do you think if there is to be a mass axing of the councillors at ECAN, what do you think would be the better alternative? A panel of appointed commissioners or ECAN's functions transferring to other local authorities?
I don't think either of those options is attractive. The reason for having a regional council is that it is above the district councils and the city council, and it makes those councils come to book. Now, when the city council gets annoyed because it wants to throw more effluent and sewage into the Avon River, they have to apply to the regional council to do it. And the regional council says, no, this isn't good enough. Now, this is why ECAN is so unpopular amongst the districts, because the district mayors want to do a lot of things. For example, take water, give consents to people that want to farm down in the Waitaki Basin, and ECAN has to sit there with the science and try and explain to them why this shouldn't happen.
Okay. Dave, do you think it would be in the region's interests if we had just one regional authority? A bigger Christchurch City Council, for example?
Yes, I do. I think the second layer is redundant, you know, what Chris was describing. I think what's necessary now is a very clear statement and position on what is actually the role of the regional councils. And I think there's the opportunity, and this is obviously a catalyst for it, to strip their functions and put them into local councils or district councils, and get rid of this regional council. There is a way of doing it. I appreciate Chris's points. They are problems, but there is a way of doing it. You don't need layers and layers of government there.
Why would one unitary super city led by Bob Parker be so much better than a system of contestability that we have now? I think it would be much, much worse.
Is the problem for Joe Blow that they feel like they are up against an even bigger wall of bureaucracy when they've got a city council and a regional council breathing down their neck?
Well, I can just say I get complaints from developers all the time about all of the councils, not just the regional council. The regional council is not the big bogey that Wyatt Creech is trying to make out. I get as many complaints about Christchurch City, and for goodness sake, if any organisation needs an investigation, it's Christchurch City for all the shonky financial dealings that we have seen over the past 3 to 5 years.
Well, I think also that the issue is you've got people who are voted in or people who are government appointed. You don't have people who are suited for the jobs that they are actually doing.
All right.
And I think that's a really big issue.
Okay, just a quickie on Phil Heatley. It's been the week of mea culpas, kicked off with Tiger Woods, of course, and Mr Heatley has not only apologised, but he has resigned from Cabinet. In fact, he might be the first MP to be known as being sunk by 2 bottles of wine. Do you think he can come back?
Well, I think he's gone, hasn't he? I was just thinking about this. Labor people got kicked out for telling porkies to media generally, but the Nats seem to get kicked out for having their fingers in the till. And why they don't learn is beyond me.
What do you make of it?
Oh, it's very silly, isn't it? You know, I mean, it's silly that he would even have a credit card. If he's having an expense, I'm sure there's a way to claim it back and have it, you know, properly regularised. But I mean, this is just nonsense that they have credit cards, and then you have this, and you've got to believe there's more to the story than what we're seeing, isn't there? You know, and can he come back? I don't know. It depends what finally falls out of all of this.
Yeah.
But you know, we've seen ministers who have done probably way worse things who have come back. So I suppose that's going to be an option, isn't it?
What is your intuitive side saying,
Well, I
Sheryl?
think he's just joined the roll call of honour, hasn't he? There's English, there's our friend Honey, there's Hyde, there's Worth. It just goes on and on. It doesn't really matter whether they're National or Labour. They just don't seem to have any idea how to behave appropriately and ethically.
All right, we'll take a break. Coming up, a fresh blueprint for the CBD. We'll have a look at Jan Gell, and he's been casting his eye over the city, and also an update on the Henderson properties. Do stay with us.